Okay, so in the bowl then, we have got our melted butter, 225 grams of melted butter, there we go. We're then going to add 2 tablespoons, of oil, all right, 2 tablespoons of oil. So, hopefully you can see that. I'll move the camera a bit nearer in 1 second, so 2 tablespoons of oil. Let me just move the camera a bit so it's a bit closer. There we go. And at that point, we're then going to add the sugar. All right, now this is where you might need to write this down. I haven't got any method, unfortunately, of writing this down or showing you particularly. The oven temperature is 175 if it's electric. If it's gas, it's about gas mark 4. Do it 4, but a little bit less. Okay. So we've got a melted butter, 225 grams of butter. We have got our 2 tablespoons of oil in there, our veg oil in there. We're now going to put in our sugar, and then we've got 2 sorts of sugar. If you had the biscuits yesterday, the 2 sorts of sugar do 2 different things, right? So the brown one gives it that kind of caramelly flavour, where the white one is sweetener, if that kind of makes sense. All right, so please do listen to this because these are very specific. Right, the brown sugar, and also it's very slowly, you might need to write this down. The brown sugar is 177 grams. I know it's very specific. The brown sugar is 177 grams. So brown sugar, 177. And then I'm going to wait a second till you've all done that. I put a bit too much in. It does matter, by the way. All right, with baking, it is a precise thing. So you put too much in, take it out. So, brown sugar, 177 grams. Hi, Sharice. See you on there. The white sugar is 227. Okay, so 227 grams of white sugar. So, quickly, the butter melted is 225 grams. I put in my 2 tablespoons of oil. I then added my brown sugar, which was 177 grams of brown sugar. And then we've got 227 grams, all right, 227 grams of white sugar. All right, I'm gonna get regularly granulated. Use caster, matters not, as long as it's white sugar. So 227, as I said, it's slimming. 226. 227, there we go. Just going to get rid of the scales for a sec. At that point, whisk, mix it together. So the 2 sugars again, I'm sure someone asked me, is 177 grams of brown sugar. The white sugar, 227 grams. 227 of the white sugar. 177 brown, 227 white. All right, so, and it will look something like that. Fine, let's move on. What we're then going to do is we're now going to add the eggs. So we can add 3 things now, the eggs, vanilla, and the salt. So the eggs will go in. 1 egg. So all 3 eggs go into that mixture. We then want 4 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Seems a lot, I know. But it's a predominant flavour, all right? So 4 teaspoons, so 4 eggs, 4 teaspoons of vanilla extract. 1. There we go. And we then want let's put that there, 1 teaspoon of salt or a decent pinch. Okay, so whatever. Sounds weird putting salt into a chocolate brownie, but actually I think that we said yesterday for the cookies, salt brings out actually the flavour unusually, all right, so it does work. So very quickly then what else I put in to what else I put on the stream, so have a look back, is 4 eggs, 4 teaspoons of vanilla, and a pinch of salt, or a teaspoon of salt. That all goes in now with a whisk. Give that a really good mix in. And it will look like that. Everyone okay? We're going to need 142 grams of just regular plain flour. 142. 142 grams of plain flour. Oops. I went mental there, I wasn't watching, so take some out. So 142 of flour, 115. This is what I said, this is kind of like, this is the standard one you get in the shops, cocoa powder. Okay, you can, I mean, I did say don't use drinking chocolate, it just isn't the same. It's got milk and sugar in it, and it's kind of a mixture of different things. All right, so we want 115 grams, let's reset this, of cocoa powder. There we go, get rid of that. Take it off the scale, don't need the scales now. Mix it in. Okay, so you want to use, you can use a spoon, a spatula, it doesn't really matter. And to be honest, if you did use a whisk, you know, the world wouldn't end. But you're probably going to get a better result by using a spatula. Mix, mix, mix. Basically, don't overmix it, that's the key thing, all right? When you're using powders, like flour or cocoa, if you're using a scraper, go right to the bottom and put it over, right? You can see what I'm doing there. Let me move this a little bit. Right to the bottom and put it over, because if you don't, you'll think you've done it, and then when you tip it out, you've got this enormous lump of flour or cocoa powder in there, which obviously is not what you want. Right, can you all see that? That wonderful mixture, nice, look at that. Nice and shiny, yum. Don't forget, if you have forgotten, turn your oven on, that's really important for the cooking time. What we're now going to do is chop up the chocolates. Okay, so we have 255 grams. When you're chopping the chocolate, if you haven't already, that's all right. If you haven't, you want it decently chunky, all right, because that's what you want when we eat the brownie. We don't want to kind of hump the chocolate. I mean, it's going to be in there, but you want chunks. So when you bite into it, you get a nice, don't go mental, you know, you want it, mind your fingers. Obviously, I'm going to give you a minute to chop this up, so I'll leave you alone for a minute while I do mine. Here's my chocolate. I'm going to put half my chocolate in. 50% goes in. Just guess, don't weigh it. Life's too short. But you want 50%, half the chocolate actually goes into the brownie. The other chocolate will go on the top. So, mix that in. Yum, yum, yum. Okay, we're nearly there, all right? So 50% of the chocolate is 255 grams of chocolate, and half of that goes into the mixture. The other half we're going to put on the top in a second. Here's my tin I have. 255 grams, Karis. All right, 255 grams. With the tin, I'm conscious that if you saw the video I did earlier, your tin might be squarer. Let me get an example if you didn't hear or see. Right, so these take around 35 minutes, but obviously based upon a tin, which is meant to be this, which is this size, set about 7 by 11. If your tin is more square, that's not a problem, but it will mean it is a little bit thicker. Like the contents will be thicker. Therefore, that means it will take longer. Okay, it's not a problem. It might take 10 minutes more. It's very hard to tell, but I will later show you how you know. Well, I'll tell you now, just in case. What we're looking for, so when you take a brownie out, as I said earlier, you cannot test it with the skewer because it's going to come out gooey and you want that. But when you take it out and you give it a little shake, you want it just one step over wobbly. It shouldn't be wobbly, but the edges will be set and the middle will just be very, very lightly set. So when you shake it, there might be a very slight wobble. At that point, you take it out. I mean, obviously, it's going to be 35 minutes thereabouts. All right, that's what we're looking for. I will show you that in more detail. So, we then have our tin. If you have got grease proof, that's better. If you haven't, you want to get some butter and give it a really good grease round. Otherwise, you're never going to get out the tin. That's fine. Yeah, a rectangle and deep is fine. That's not a problem at all. Get it grease proof. This can be a pain if you look. So when you try and push it in, it poings out again. But do not worry about that because the weight of the brownie will push down the paper. And don't worry also, see mine, what's the best way to show you? Is it doesn't necessarily go all the way up the side. That's fine, as long as the majority of the base is done, then that's fine. You haven't got to grease the paper itself because if it is proper grease paper, it's pre-done, all right? So put the mixture in. Get this one. If you need to try and get a scraper, if you haven't got a scraper, just use something. You want to get all that out. Look at this, that looks like amazing. It's nice thing before it's cooked. Very, very sticky. These are kind of not marketed, but when I researched this and sort of tried and all the rest of it, these are kind of quite fudgy. You do get some brownies which are quite cakey, but the problem is with that, you don't want a brownie with cakey because you might as well have chocolate cake. All right, so what we now do, don't worry too much. You want to try and get it in the corners, don't faff about too much getting it flat because it will sort itself out, when it cooks in the oven. Right, all you're now going to do, here's mine, is with your other chocolate, your other 50% chocolate, that gets sprinkled over the top, right? Obviously as evenly as kind of you can. You haven't got to worry about pushing it in actually because again, when it starts cooking, that will, look, I've got all these shavings, I don't want to waste them either. Boom. Look at that. It's wicked even before it's cooked. It's going to go in the oven 35 minutes. I'll be back in 35 minutes, but can I just stress, if your tin is thinner, like longer maybe, yours might take less. So can I say again, what you're looking for is it to be done, it will be done around the edge, but the middle bit here, you don't want it wet, all right? When you shake it, it shouldn't move like a wave, but it might be a very, very slight wobble. That's good. There we go. So Alexa, stop. So that's my 35 minutes. I'm gonna take mine out and have a look. It may not be done. Okay, mine is actually done. I know it's done, because around the edge is set, and I know it's set because I can tell, you know it's set. The middle is lost jiggle, and I can tell it has just set. Can I stress that is important? All right, let's move it there. So what you're looking for, everyone, when you take it out, is that the outside bit is set, you want that. This middle area, it shouldn't be jiggly, but can I stress it? If you wiggle it and it jiggles, it needs a little bit longer. When you take it out, however, if it doesn't jiggle, but when you push it, you can just tell it's just set. You want it barely set. If you leave it more, I'll give it another 5 minutes, you're gonna have chocolate cake. We don't want chocolate cake, we want brownies, all right? But remember, you cannot test it with the skewer because it just won't work, all right? It will come out chocolatey and gooey, and that's not the plan of action. All right, so there we go, brownies. Let me know how it goes. One key thing just to mention, and I'll repeat this in a second because people are still joining, I can see. But don't even try and take it out of the tin. You need to be really patient, leave it for probably half an hour at least, or maybe even longer, until it is actually cold to the touch, and then you cut it. If you do it before it's cold, it will crumble and break. And it tastes nice, but it'll just be a bit annoying because you can't cut it into chunks.